Address volume is non-tax, so the. Yeah, he's mine. I'm like, oh, this thing. Still doing the presentation. You're very nice. I haven't seen her. Okay. Yeah, she's right. She makes that again, but she yeah, I think she's bringing on like in. Yeah. She needs to stand in the middle of we just that sounds nicer. I don't even really?
And yeah, so the website as well.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. We're live and we're ready to go. I am Carrie Klein from Neosho, Newton County. I'm your current Missouri. Thank you, Terry. I'm the current Missouri Evergreen chair. And Kate Coleman is here. She is the incoming chair. The only reason we are wearing crowns is because number one, Kate said she didn't own one, and I thought that was sad. And number two is if you need anything today at all, if you have questions, concerns, if you need something, please come find either one of us. Or if you're on the current Missouri Evergreen board, would you stand up? Let's focus on these people. They also are willing and able to help you. So please ask anyone if we're ready to go. So we're excited for the 2025 conference. We're excited that we outgrew Mornet. And we have changed it up a lot this year. We have a bigger venue, we have breakout sessions, and we're trying every year to make this a bigger and more exciting conference for you. However, without you, it's not going to work. We have some great sessions, but you have all the knowledge in your head. And that's what we want to hear from is you. You're the one that's going to bring it to the table for us today. And it's the fellowship between all of us that makes this the really great conference that it's going to be. So I am not going to introduce our special guest. I know that Steve will, but Mr. Potter, are you ready? Oh, he seems entranced with his phone. He's having a lot of fun. I think it's on Facebook.
I would not on Facebook.
Everyone's Steve Potter. Yeah.
You should know better. I've been on a Facebook diet since last year, and I'm rarely on Facebook. But so again, welcome and thank you. And please let us know and let the board members know as the day progresses how things are going. If we can help you with anything, not just at the conference, but in Evergreen as well. For our opening session, what we're going to do is I'm going to pass this off to our keynote speaker here in just a moment, and then. Well, we'll probably have a little bit of Q&A at the end of after his presentation, and then just a few housekeeping. We'll do the most important housekeeping real quick, just in case you didn't notice. So, you know, if nature calls in the middle of this meeting, please go. And the restrooms are out sort of beyond the registration table, like you're walking back toward the lobby, and then immediately to the right as you get toward the bar. So That's the most important housekeeping. We'll talk about breakout sessions and how you get to those and all of that after Galen's talk. And yeah, that's it. So for Galen, I just really want to give a brief introduction, and I'll let him enhance that in any way that he wants. But Galen Charlton is the Senior Developer of Information Technology and Information Technology Manager at Equinox. And Galen is one of our primary contacts that we use. My primary contact is Felicia, and he'll show you a nice picture of Felicia here in a second. But particularly if I'm talking bits and bytes, Galen is the guy that we talk to. And his purpose today is to come and talk to you a little bit about what is Equinox? Why does Equinox matter? And why do we have this relationship with Equinox? And how do we get the most from that relationship with Equinox? Among other things. He's got a lot of other interesting things to talk about. So is that a sufficient introduction? Galen says that's a sufficient introduction. And so without further ado, Galen Charlton.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So first, let me express my pleasure at being here again with you. I will note that this is the largest Missouri Evergreens user meeting yet. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm also thrilled that there are so many new faces here joining us, both at the event and as members of the Missouri Evergreen Consortium. Thank you, Steve, for that wonderful introduction. To tell you a little more about myself, I've been in library automation and library IT a bit longer than I care to admit to. But library automation has actually been my entire professional career, ever since I graduated college. So I've had the privilege of working with many wonderful libraries and wonderful consortia, but Missouri does hold a special place in my heart because of the way that you all have come together and self-organized and grew what was a very small start into one of the premier resource sharing consortia in the States. And there are many things that you guys do that are special and different, from even other Evergreen resource sharing consortia. But one logistical note I want to mention, by the way, as I believe is the case with the rest of the events, this session is being recorded. You will be able to watch the recording later or direct colleagues if you were not able to attend to this, to the recordings. But I didn't want to bring it up since I am planning on a Q&A session at the end of my talk. So I'd like to first expand the introduction myself to the Equinox Open Library Initiative, the nonprofit I work for and have worked for since 2009, and explain a little about how we came to be, what we do now, and in particular, what we do for Missouri Evergreen. So Equinox can all be blamed on the state of Georgia, the Georgia Public Service, who in the early 2000s realized that they needed more from their ILS. GPOS, which covers most of the public libraries in the state, had been a resource sharing consortium for years, but came to the realization that the iOS that they were using was not giving them everything that they needed to work efficiently as a consortium. One big problem, all the requests are hard. This is, by the way, a preview of a session I'll be talking about later this afternoon. But to share resources statewide, introduces a lot of complications that frankly, a lot of iOSs, especially back in the early 2000s, weren't up to. So what did GPOS do? Is they decided to write their own open source iOS, which of course is Evergreen. So that was about a roughly 3-year development process. They went live in 2006, 2007, and have since been providing very solid service to the state on Evergreen for, at this point, almost 28 years. And I myself am a proud Pines cardholder. But so what happens if you produce a kick-ass open source package? You inevitably get people who want to adopt it for themselves. So very early on, after Pines went live, there were groups in Canada and in other states who wanted to use Evergreen. Some of them were able to become contributors from day one, extend the code, help the community. Others needed more of a traditional commercial relationship. And of course, one thing that state governments are not geared up to do is to provide commercial services. So Equinox Software at the time spun off as a commercial startup. It was founded by original developers of the Evergreen software. And since 2007, Equinox has been serving libraries exclusively in the open source space. So we do not sell proprietary software. We have never signed a contract that gives somebody a software license, because by the nature of the way that Evergreen and all the other products work under the open source licenses that they have, anybody's free to use them and to extend upon them. And you don't have to ask permission. You don't have to pay for the license, but often you do have to ask for help. And that is where Equinox and organizations like Equinox come into play. So we started off, supporting Evergreen, of course. We've since expanded to other open source products, both to fit different types of libraries and different niches, as well as to expand the types of software that libraries need. So that includes the Koha integrated library system, which has the privilege of being the oldest major open source iOS in the world. We also support discovery platforms, including Viewfind, and most relevant to Missouri Evergreen's interests, Aspen discovery. And we've been supporting Aspen since about 2021 or 2022. So we, you'll see on the slide, we're fully committed to open source. So what does that mean in practice? So one thing it means is that if you ask us to do a development project, the code gets contributed back to the source community so that everybody can benefit, also so that other people in the community can help improve and refine what we've done. It also means that we participate in the communities as members, not as a big stompy vendors. So that in part means we regularly are on committees and task force in the various open source projects, particularly Evergreen, but also Koha, Viewfind, and Aspen. But we are also very cognizant of the fact that without the libraries, who are the backbone and the foundation of the communities, we would have no reason to exist. So our role is to be participants in the community, to help, and sometimes by providing infrastructure, but not to be the 800-pound gorilla. If you've ever seen an 800-pound gorilla try to create a market record, it's terrible. And so, with respect to Missouri Evergreen, we've been, proud to provide various services to you since 2019, and because history is so complicated, we've actually, provided services to libraries who subsequently joined the Missouri Evergreen, before 2019. But within that, somewhat complicated history, also, lies one of the key strengths that open source brings to libraries, which is you are not restricted to just the one vendor to get the software. There are other entities that can provide Evergreen hosting and support, and some of them actively contribute to development and are important players in the community. But on just a strictly commercial basis, one of the rules that they provide is to keep organizations like Equinox honest through through competition, and a key theme. You always have a choice, and we aim to earn your business every day. So one of the nice things about being invited to give this presentation is that I get to do some introductions. So, people on the slide, the core management team of Equinox, Lisa Carducci, the executive director, myself, Mike Rylander, our research and development manager, who is one of the original founders of Evergreen. So just so you all know, don't spread this about. It's all his fault. Another person particularly important to you is our business development manager, Felicia Boudre, who's also the primary account manager for Missouri Evergreen. So that means she meets with Steve Potter every couple of weeks just to check in. She's also one of the key escalation paths should something that come up that needs a full court press from Equinox's management. And then the last member of our management team, but one who many of you have likely seen in person, and you've certainly seen on video conferences, is our product and education manager, Jennifer Weston. These are services she and her team provide are invaluable because otherwise Evergreen is just a pile of confusing balance. So what does Equinox do for Missouri Evergreen? Quite a number of things. And one of the purposes in this presentation is to make sure that you are aware of what we do for you and what we can do for you. And because I strongly suspect that there are some things that you could be asking us for that you may not know is within our wheelhouse. But so one of the core services is hosting of Evergreen and not spend of discovery. So this is a 24/7 365 operation for us. We run the software, we upgrade the servers, we deal with cloud hosting, we deal with the backups. And yes, it is within your power to wake up our IT team at 2 in the morning if you choose. Please do this only when necessary. But, we're seriously, 24/7 monitoring is one of the things that we offer because, yeah, you may open your doors at 9 in the morning and close them at 5 or at, or at 10 at night. But the patrons using Libby need Evergreen to be able to authenticate them, operate at all hours of the day. So, and of course, another thing that goes hand in hand with our hosting is our help desk support. And, Evergreen, like any iOS, is inherently complicated. And you're going to have questions, you're going to need help, setting up the policies at time or troubleshooting our problems. And that's what our support team is here to do. And we are, by the way, a supplement and a complement to the efforts that you have been doing among yourselves in terms of, collaborative self-support. So we can answer a question or help you write a report, but it is all is you who may know the context about why a particular report is needed. Another key thing we do is implementations and migrations. And so that consists of a couple distinct services. One of them is deploying new services and new products. So Aspen Discovery is an example of that. But another one is working to expand the Missouri Evergreen empire by adding network operators to the Evergreen system and facilitating joining the resource sharing network. We have educational services, both at the point of onboarding new libraries as well as ongoing training as needed. So concrete example, a library gets staff turnover. We can do things like provide a refresher training to supplement the efforts that the consortium provides. We also do a lot of consulting for our customers, since one of the things we've discovered over the years, kind of by accident, is we've soaked up a lot of knowledge about how resource sharing can work in libraries, and we're happy to help all of our customers optimize resource sharing, as well as to engage in products to improve the data quality of your catalog and to simplify policies and the like. Then another key thing we do is product development. And that comes about in several ways, including a commissioned project to add a new feature that we then contribute back to Evergreen or to Aspen, as well as working in the context of the Evergreen community to enhance the software in general. So, starting first with our hosting of Aspen and Evergreen. So a couple of days ago, as I was finalizing these slides, I ran some numbers, and well, y'all are pretty big, actually. So if you look in the Evergreen database, there are 253 organizational units, representing a number of systems and 198 service outlets. And by service outlet count, that makes you one of the largest Evergreen systems in the world. I think Pines and Evergreen, Indiana, have more outlets, so you'll have some work to do to meet them. But I think it's key for you to keep in mind as you participate in the Evergreen community that you all are legitimately a big deal, and you're doing some things that are going to be of interest to the Evergreen community as a whole. So you have 1.3 million active demographic records, representing the tension between, adding that new stuff all the time, and Liz and Kate trying to reduce the number of records.
So happy with that number.
Yeah.
It used to be much higher.
Yeah. 5 million items, about 750,000 of active patent records. And last year, 5.3 million loans and renewals. And 1.2 million year to date. So if anything, if nothing else, if anybody says that to you, so this physical library circulation is dying off, I think. It's still kind of pretty important. And one of the things that's new this year is we get to talk about some numbers from Aspen Discovery. So at the moment, since Aspen went live in October, there have been about 80,000 board requests placed through Aspen. People are discovering that they can go to Aspen for Libby and Hoopla checkouts. People and bots are also busily searching Aspen with about 1.3 million searches of the Aspen catalog since October. So one of the reasons I bring up these numbers is the scale of the work you're doing and mediating through Evergreen and Aspen is, of course, large, important to your patrons, but also means that, particularly on the resource sharing front, you all are doing a lot of complicated things in an environment, of course, where there's going to be challenges to budgets and figuring out how to stretch the dollars. And that's where I think harkening back to Evergreen's origins as the Georgia Public Library Service seeking to solve some resource sharing problems. So they had Evergreen is a foundational thing as a true consortial iOS. And some of the presentations later today will discuss as some of the applications. So one of the key things to remember, though, is that our support team is all about the people. So we have our support manager, Steve Callender, John Yorio, and then somebody who we brought So at this point, many of you have communicated with Dale via email or in person. I'm giving you now blanket permission and encouragement to ask them all your support questions in person. So to start off first with some numbers about what we're doing for you. Taking last year's user conference as a milestone, since April of last year to a couple of days ago, we've recorded over 500 hours of time responding to your support tickets. You've collectively opened 764 of them. We've got 723 closed during that period, with, of course, the remainder being actively worked on. And something that's one of the unique things about you is about 138 of you directly opened support tickets. So, and that's actually something that's a bit unusual for us. Most of our consortial customers filter support requests through a central office with a central staff who does what we call tier one support. And of course, not at all to forget about the efforts of Steve and Liz and Mary Kay, who also provide some support to you, as well as what the committees are doing. But you all have been running, from what my point of view is, an incredibly lean and efficient operation to run such a large consortium with a very, very small, central staff in terms of FTE. So that is a credit, I think, to the strength of the Missouri Evergreen community and the board that you've been able to do this. But so one of the consequences is that every library can designate up to 3 support contacts to open a ticket with Equinox directly. And I bring this up to also emphasize, if you weren't aware of this, and you're not sure who your support contacts are, or you're maybe not designating up to 3, you do have an opportunity to ensure that you're making the best use of the services that are available to you. I should mention the support contact limit of 3 per library is for routine inquiries. We set a limit just to make sure we know who we're talking to, because give you a concrete example, some of our support tickets are, please open, set up a new staff user account. It would be kind of bad if we accidentally created a new staff user account for John Smith down at the street who doesn't even work for the library. So that is actually one of the reasons why we ask for known support contacts, is to make sure that we get people support tickets from people who are actually authorized to make a request on behalf of the library. But also, it's helpful to make sure that there's some coordination. However, there's an exception. If Evergreen has gone down, any staff member at the library, can call us, and I should emphasize, call us, to report an issue. We don't gatekeep support tickets about the system being down or having issues. And the reason why I emphasize calling us is, remember what I said about waking us up at 2 in the morning, leaving us a voicemail in, through our support line is actually one of the ways to accomplish that. So if you want to get our attention, immediately call us. Continuing on, the trend of the numbers, like I mentioned, we've been hosting and supporting Missouri Evergreen since 2019. And you'll notice on the set graph, in 2019, you all opened about 250 support tickets. Year to date, in 2025, you have opened about 250 support tickets. So, and this basically just represents and reflects the growth of the consortium. More libraries, more support tickets, You know, but again, if you were, you know, under any doubt about how big a deal you are in a big deal. So some tips for using Equinox support. You have 3 different ways to file a ticket. There's a support portal at support.equinox.oli.org. You can email our support address, or you can call us toll free for urgent requests. One thing I should mention about our support services and when you file a ticket, our support team is awesome. They do many complicated things. They have a solid record of helping our libraries on a timely basis. But our support team members do have a bit of an issue. Not one of them is a telepath. Yeah. So the reason I bring it up is that, you know, there can sometimes be cases where a ticket comes in that says, here's a problem. And it may not be immediately clear to us what you were expecting to see. You know, obviously it's, you know, pretty clear that if the checkout screen doesn't come up, that you need it to come up. But there are, you know, definitely, you know, scenarios where it may not be clear what you're expecting to happen because it's either, you know, it's controlled by policy or because it's, you know, concerns some details of cataloging that maybe arcane, even for a cataloger at the Library of Congress, or things like that. So, you know, these do give us, you know, some sense of what you expected Evergreen or Aspen to do. And specific examples also help. That will make a copy art. If you have an example about a specific patron, we strongly prefer that you don't include the patron's name in the support ticket. Just refer to them if you need to refer to a specific patron by their database ID or their barcode. And I should mention that protecting patron privacy is also one of Equinox's core values that you know, influence how we support the software, how we developed the software, and also how we deal with information retention about support tickets. There's also another key thing I want to emphasize. We cannot help you if we don't know there's a problem. We can monitor for things like, is the system up? Is it returning searches? Are patrons able to log in? We cannot monitor for, say, every, you know, now and again, something gets messed up on a hold poll list or, you know, or on hold slips that, you know, causes your circulation staff to have to spend an extra half hour sorting it out before the courier pickup. So if there's anything wrong, if it's not acting as you expect, and maybe you've been rumbling to yourself, your colleagues, or even on the Missouri Evergreen mailing list. Equinox, again, no telepaths on staff. We can't know what, you know, can't know about all problems without being told. So if you're suffering an issue, please let us know. And you know, sometimes the answer may be, you know, we recognize and agree that there's a problem, but it may take some time to fix it, or it may take a big development project to fix it. You know, but we would much rather know where the pain points are for you than to discover 3 years after the fact that you've been, in the table, because of it. So, and, certainly with respect to today, please feel free to buttonhole me, during the event today, if you have questions. If you want to vent about this stupid thing that Evergreen has been for years. And yes, I realize I'm setting myself up here, but that is actually our job, is to at minimum be aware of it and to do our best to either fix the problem or ameliorate it, or at least give you a workaround until a more permanent fix, can happen. So, just please, please don't suffer in silence. And if you forget literally everything else about my presentation, please remember this. That's it. We also love to hear about it, when you have successes. So, all right. Give me one moment. I think okay, now I do. All right. So moving on to implementation and IT. So some faces here. I run both the hosting operation at Equinox and our implementation team. Rogan Hamby is our project manager. We have that work here. Jason Boyer is our senior system administrator. Some of you may have spoken to him, either during an implementation or in a support context over the years. Note that if you speak to Jason, you've earned the privilege of being able to say that you've given us a complicated problem to it. And then also Jason Etheridge, another Equinox founder, has a role both on our development team and on our implementation team. So what have we been up to in terms of go lives? So we've had several. So they went live before the Evergreen users conference last year. So I sometimes wonder what it was like for you, Greg. Go live 2 weeks later, the users conference. But anyway, including them in this list, Adair, Sarkovsky, and of course, the Municipal Library Consortium of St. Louis County, Brentwood, Ferguson, Kirkwood, Maplewood, Richmond Heights, Rock Hill, University City, Valley Park, and Webster Roads. So, at this point, please give a round of applause to everybody who's made that happen. And then something that's been happening on a rolling basis is libraries going live on Aspen Discovery. So I want to give a particular shout out to MLC, who pulled off the amazing task of not going live just on Evergreen, but also going live on Aspen Discovery at the same time. So y'all did an incredible job with the migration and contributing to it and guiding us. And it was a thrilling project in a couple senses. But there are also 6 other members who are part of the pilot group of Aspen Discovery implementers. Who've also been doing an awesome job with the new catalog. And something else to remember. I strongly encourage y'all who are not yet on Aspen to give it a look and to consider it, because I think it will do very good things, by combining your physical and electronic content in one discovery interface. So Another way of looking at the go lives in the past year. I suppose I could now announce a contest for the best library logo in Missouri. Perhaps starting a civil war is not the best way. But it occurs to me, I'd actually love it if somebody could put together a map of Missouri with all of the library logos on it, or maybe it already exists. And something else I'm sliding into the implementation category is another ongoing service that we do, which is upgrades. Earlier this morning, Steve had mentioned to me that there were some questions around why is Equinox bugging y'all every month about the Sequoia maintenance update. So let me explain what we're up to. So the Evergreen project itself releases 2 major version releases a year, spring and fall. But it also releases generally monthly updates with bug fixes and sometimes minor enhancements. So every month, some things that get improved. And so what we started doing years ago was to say, let's not wait a year or 2 years, or occasionally 3 or 4 years, for the library, for a library to do a big jump. Instead, we deliver the community bug fixes every month, as well as sometimes what we call back reports. And that's a bug fix that may have been submitted to the community, but not yet been fully reviewed yet, but which we believe solves particular problems. So we will include those backported bug fixes in our monthly maintenance releases as well. So, and it can be a real mixed bag. Sometimes a bug fix just is just fixing a typo in a label in an administrative interface that literally none of you ever visit. But sometimes the bug fixes can be of more import. So that's why we do this update every month. The email that we sent to Steve that he then forwards does give a list and some explanation of the bug fixes that are coming up in the release. So it can be helpful to at least skim it to see if any of the bug fixes are either an issue that you've been dealing with for a while, or if it maybe opens up a new opportunity for you. But in addition to the monthly release by release updates, we do a journal major version upgrade once a year. And in recent years for Evergreen, it's been in early spring, typically February. And this is you jumping to Evergreen releases at a time to get new features, to get new modules if they exist. And of course, that is certainly the big deal upgrade of each year. And one thing I will say about it is I highly encourage people to take advantage of the opportunity to test the new release, since we do put the new version on your test system, at least a month before the production date. And of course, I should mention, by the way, test system. Or were all of you aware that you have a full-blown test system? Okay, good. Sometimes people are not aware. But the test system exists, and while it's primarily used nowadays for training and for the staging environment as new libraries get added on and they test their migration, the test system can also be used by you at any time. So let's say you want to try out something, with a batch patron update through user buckets. If you want a little assurance about what you're trying to do, you could do it to test the system first. And then once you're satisfied with the results, do it again in a production. So the test system is a tool that's available to you all the time. And that gives you a sandbox that has a full copy of the production data for you to work with. And if you end up breaking the test database, that's fine. That is something that we can recover from. We can always refresh the database as needed. Please do not take this as a challenge, by the way. Yeah. And I should also mention Aspen Discovery. We've been doing upgrades at need. Most recently, y'all were bumped up to 2502, I believe. But this is also something where this year we will be shifting to a more frequent and regular update cycle to match the Sequoia maintenance cycle for Evergreen. Though for various reasons, I don't think it's going to be a long time before we necessarily have to live on the bleeding edge of Aspen, since historically there have been instances where the Aspen community has put in a bunch of great new features and rushed a couple of things and broken out something. So we tend to be a little more cautious with Aspen updates, but it is also something that, if you need it for a new e-content provider that Aspen just learned support for or something, we can always do an ad hoc upgrade as needed for that kind of purpose. So all right. Continuing on our introductions, the educational services team, I mentioned many of you have undoubtedly seen Jennifer in person. Many of you, possibly many more of you, have also seen Nina Hernandez in person. And what this group does is two broad areas. One, of course, is training during migrations. So that graphic of the logos of all the libraries who went live. Jennifer and Lena were present on site at each and every one of them. Right, they were on site at all of them. And they're a key part to helping teach people how to use the software and to learn how to configure it. But in addition to the training during migrations, our training team is available year-round as needed. So there have been training webinars under the Equinox EDU banner that people can attend, or that you can access recordings of. You can access recordings of past implementation trainings. But the educational services team is also available for ad hoc training and for special consulting projects. So some of you have been working with Jennifer through what I can assume have been long meetings with gremlins, wandering through the meeting room every now and again with respect to the permissions project. So that's an example of one of the special initiatives that our training team does. And then we have our development team. Mike Rylander, again, blame him for everything, as the research and development manager. Andrea Diamond as our project manager for development, and then Stephanie Leary and Jason Etheridge. So these are the people who are working in conjunction with other partner libraries and with the Evergreen community to add new features. And, some of the things that this includes, for the version you most recently upgraded to the Angular reports interface. And one of the things we'll be discussing with Steve and others is now that you're hopefully getting through the worst of annual reports, statistics time of switching Missouri Evergreen over to that new interface, the new Angular Mark Editor. By the way, big parcel of bug fixes are going to be dropping soon. Angular interfaces for acquisitions. And of course, I keep using the word Angular. And well, sorry, we live at the intersection of libraries and IT. That means Stroken. So in case you're wondering, what the heck are we talking about with what does Angular mean in this context? Angular is a particular web, JavaScript framework or foundational web technology that the Evergreen stack interface has been transitioned to from previous frameworks for in the course of the past century, not the past 3 years. So, and my little bit of a grumbling about that aside, this does represent a way that the Evergreen project works to keep it fresh, because the original Evergreen staff client depended on a particular technology from Mozilla that died years ago, and and since then the web staff client has gone through several iterations. But it's not just a matter of changing the technology in a way that perhaps only nerds could love. There have been a number of other usability improvements introduced, and a particular focus in the past 2 years at this point has been improving the accessibility of both the OPAC and the staff interface. And for all of you who find yourself working late on cataloging problems, and you've wished that Evergreen has a dark mode, you can actually blame or rather appreciate Stephanie Leary for spearheading the effort to add the dark mode to the Evergreen staff interface. Couple other, another thing of note is, on one hand, this is not the hugest of the features, but it does represent the sort of quality of life improvement we like to make, is the ability to create a carousel in Evergreen from a record bucket in one go, so that you don't have to go through too many steps to deal with your month special spotlight and get it put up as a bucket. Moving on to kind of the bigger picture of the past year, y'all have been incredibly busy. Besides adding 12 new libraries, there's been the rollout of message, the SMS services in conjunction with unique management, which means, it's the answer to the problem of text messages increasingly not being delivered under the old approach. The rollout of Aspen Discovery and its mobile app. I should mention there are updates to the mobile app and the Wings, as well as the permissions project to help tame Evergreen's incredibly granular permissions structure into something that works for Missouri Evergreen but with respect to things like your cataloging permissions and certification program, but also, as organization permissions. So what are the projects that are currently underway? So we are working on a project that should wrap up in a few weeks to provide a generic kids packet template for Evergreen. So that will provide an easy to turn on way to say, okay, here's a kids pack. That's limited to juvenile materials, and that includes categories that a number of your colleagues have put together as a good default. Updates to the Missouri Evergreen mobile app that I mentioned, as well as working through with the transition to Backstage Library Works, given the demise last year of Archive. By the way, be a huge business opportunity if any of you want to spin up a new one. There are not that many competitors left in the authority control space. So
Liz and I are gonna go into business.
Mentioning Aspen and Discovery, the pilot libraries are live. Besides MLC, what you call it, Cape, Cass County, Jefferson, Poplar Bluff, St. Joseph, and Scenic Regional as the trailblazers. And I highly encourage you to visit each of their Aspen catalogs to see the possibilities. And by the way, we have other customers who've done this. It's entirely possible to successfully use Aspen as your library website in toto. If you've been relying just on a Facebook page or something as your library's primary web presence, Aspen gives you an opportunity to do more. And I want to call out that later this afternoon, Heather Arnold will be doing a presentation and a demonstration of Aspen. All right, so the kids pack, this is by the way a screenshot of the test system. Well, we're working on the logos, but after much contention in the subcommittee, there's zero contention. Dewey of the CAD will be the forward. There will also be a presentation by Greg Carter and Rebecca later today about the Kids Pack project. But basically, this gives a way to easily slot in a juvenile restricted catalog as needed. And then the permissions project, I think is, still has some wrinkles being worked on. There's also, I think, discussion going on about tweaks to order fulfillment. So I invite you all to my presentation at 1:30, where you get to see me trying to keep you all awake immediately after lunch, talk about the whole policies. So, before we jump into Q&A, first, I do want to convey that it's a privilege for us to help serve your patrons. There's a lot going on, but if you have questions, please feel free to ask during the Q&A or approach me, at any point during the day today, or to email me, or of course to route the questions through Steve or the Missouri Evergreen board. And if there's anything that you saw today that made you think, oh, I didn't realize this was an option for us, I definitely want to hear about that. But also, despite the fact that I've been standing up talking to you for the past hour. Equinox's role here during the event today is really about listening to you. So please don't be shy. If you have concerns, you have questions, you have complaints, you have laudits, please let me know. So to that end, we have some time left. I'd like to ask if there are any questions for me that you'd like to ask on the spot. And Steve has a microphone that he can run over to you.
And I know people don't like to use the microphone, but it's really handy, so it gets picked up. So when people watch the session later, they'll be able to hear your questions. So I've never known this group to be shy. There must be a question. Hey, you have a question?
I do.
Okay, so we just iterated as you covered, and we purposefully don't go to the most recent iteration of Evergreen. But my question is, how are there so many bugs still for it being live for other people for so long already? How can we improve that? I know that a lot of people don't actually use the test server to work it out beforehand. Would that like solve those problems, just that, or is there, I guess my question is, how are so many other libraries using it, but all of these bugs are still not known that we come up with?
Right. So the answer to that question is there's inherently always going to be a bit of a delay when a version becomes available. Well, I think there's one or two very brave web operators in the Evergreen community who installed the .0 release, but it's generally at minimum 3 to 4 months before anybody's actually on a new version. And I'll be frank with respect to interfaces like the angularization of the mark editor and Angular reports. We've learned some things about that sort of big interface transition that Equinox is working on at a QC level to deal with. But we're working through the current set of bugs, and we're doing some process changes to try and avoid so much in the future. But I think the general thing is, definitely make use of the test servers. And for any of you who are active in Evergreen forums, I highly encourage people to do things like participate in the bug watching weeks and the feedback fests, because that's your avenue to get really early previews of some of these upcoming features. In addition to that, Equinox runs a couple standing public demo systems. So that would be your avenue to do things like, let's say you wanted to start poking around 3.14 or 3.15 when it's released, in about a month. Those public demo systems are an opportunity for you to start playing day one with a new release. It could start even a year before Missouri Evergreen as a whole would be jumping to that release.
To just reiterate, it's 3.13 that we're on right now. The actual most recent, the bleeding edge is 3.14. So even with all the problems, we're not on the most recent version. But 3.14 is supposed to have report changes.
Is there a plan to improve the reports? I mean, simple reports really aren't so simple. And the legacy ones, that's where I always go to. It's a mess.
Right. So I think with respect to Evergreen's reports, I think it's fair to say that the Evergreen original reports on module is very much something that a programmer can love. So what we're actually doing at Equinox is taking doing an investigation of other reporting options, open source ones, of course. So if you've heard the word Metabase, in any discussion, that's one of the platforms that we now support, and it can provide an easier way to write reports. Now, I qualify this by saying, I think it's definitely easier than Evergreen's full reporter. When I say it is easy, not necessarily. So one of the things that we're also taking a look at is possibilities around designing something that can provide more canned reports, in the sense of here's just something that will give you, say, a monthly circulation statistics report. It will give you, options for filters and so on, so you can branch and so on. But it will intentionally not give you the full panoply of fields and so on. So it's an idea in our heads, but it is just something where we are very open to feedback from you. If there are any libraries among Missouri Evergreen who are using other reporting tools that you like, that could be considered for connecting that to the Evergreen database, we're all ears. But yeah, I do want to acknowledge that it would be false to claim that reporting an Evergreen is easy, and while simple reports does legitimately make us some things simpler, it does not do things like these, to the extent that Evergreen has the data at all, just spit out the numbers I need to submit to the state library. And yeah, I do want to acknowledge that we're aware that it's an area that needs improvement.
From day one, I've always heard that the sharing of reports, which can be done in simple reports, is also a big issue. And this has been something I've been working on. Galen knows this. I've actually been looking at third-party vendors potentially to pass on to Tony and say, is this an option for us? Because yeah, it's just not working. This is not news to Galen. So, but thank you for bringing it up, because it is a major. There must be more like nice. Here we go. Scott had his fingers up first, and then we'll pass it to you.
What is the technical reason that the Aspen mobile app loads so slowly, and is the fix in that upcoming fix you mentioned?
All right, so the problem is that during the app initialization, it's loading a ton of settings from the Aspen server to, in effect, get a full view of the consortium. I should mention, by the way, that because of the way that Aspen Discovery works, it starts from the get-go indexing all of Missouri Evergreen. It's not indexing only other records that belong to other pilot properties. So it's basically joint initialization where it's trying to pull in basically the complete library system configuration. I'm working on changes to reduce what it needs and to transfer it more quickly, because it's not acceptable that patrons spend so much time looking at the same library related quotes stuff out.
Is that something that's going to be? And just to follow up on that, is that going to be something that we can expect to be fixed in the upgrade?
Yeah.
And my question was just, you mentioned Backstage Library Works, and I guess sort of like that. I was where you go over that again.
Right. Okay, so to set context, Missouri Evergreen for years has been using archive to do automated authority and control. So send out the BIP records, get updated the BIBs, and get authority records as well as authority record updates. Archive by every kind provided a pretty good service. As a company, they went out of their business last year. So Backstage at the moment is the only option left unless you're in the LCLC club, ecosystem. So, this year we started a project to switch providers to Backstage, and we're currently in the middle of doing reloading the initial base file for updated web records.
It's a cataloging thing, it's for. I will say that we,
Is this gonna be more robust, we're in control?
we have been pleased with the offerings that they, we just went with status quo, honestly, with Marchive. They did what they did. Hearing what Backstage is gonna be doing for us, we're a little more excited. It is a little bit more robust, especially the reports that we're going to be getting. Liz, do you want to talk?
I get some scary but exciting looking reports when they do this. So they have, Rogan specifically has uploaded the first Backstage, kind of look-see, and we're poking around because some things happened unexpectedly, as it always does when you put something new in. But it's going to be good. It's really good change. Very pleased with the options that we have now that we did not have last time, even for some basic cleanup stuff that they're going to do for us. So, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and one thing I should mention is that Backstage does do a good job of offering alternative subject to thesaurus and offering support for things like the Homosaurus and the like. So it does give easier control over alternative vocabularies if you choose to use them.
And from my perspective, the billing is so much easier with it. It appears like it might actually end up saving us some money too, so that's good. I think we have time for one more question because I have a laundry list of things I need to tell you before we break, so. And break and then go to breakout session. So does anyone have one more question? Okay.
Rogan a raise.
Well, I think one thing, Galen is totally serious. I mean, I understand that there are some pain points and maybe people don't want to bring up pain points in a large room. That's fine. He is very serious about visiting with him one-on-one and discussing issues that you might have. He wasn't joking and realized that he was setting himself up. So, so pick him up on it, please. Anything else? So let's show our appreciation. And while we're clapping, I'm gonna make you clap again. There is a person in this room that I think has been doing incredible work over the last couple of weeks and deserves our appreciation every day, and that's our state librarian. You know how tough it is to start a new job and then come into what she's dealing with? Oh my gosh. So thank you for spending time with us today. In terms of the announcements, a quick announcement that I just found out about. Jane from Mala brought totes and boxes for the people who ordered them. So if you ordered them, they're at the registration table and Mary Kay can help you get those totes and boxes. Lots and lots and lots of housekeeping announcements. So let me get those out of the way. One thing that people were asking about was schedule. Where is the printed agenda? We didn't print an agenda because it doesn't make sense to print an agenda and they change and things. So if you don't have a printed agenda, the best thing to do is to go to the Missouri Evergreen website, moevergreenlibraries.org. There's a link right there on the front page about the user conference. Click right on that and it will take you to the conference website, at which point then you can look at the program and agenda and everything that you might be looking for. In terms of the, we did do a little switch on the agenda. So if you were the person who printed your agenda and brought it with you, it may not be accurate. Basically what we did is we flipped the age hold protection and care and feeding of Evergreen. So now care and feeding is at 2:30, age hold protection is at 1:30. They're both still in Lewis and Clark, so we can switch when they're occurring. Okay, a little bit on.
It's 12. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
Yeah, because lunch is actually 11:30 to 12:30, so, right. Okay, in terms of logistics, if you haven't found where the breakout rooms are. So the Lewis and Clark room is on the same level as we are right now. Just basically go out, go to the right when you get to the lobby where the fireplace is, instead of turning to the left to go to the lobby, turn to the right. And the Lewis and Clark room will be right there on the left-hand side of the hall. It's got a Missouri Evergreen sign on the right by the wall, so it's really easy to find. The Pines room is up one level. So you can take the stairs in the lobby. There's a set of stairs that if you're going to Lewis and Clark, there's a set of stairs that's right there in front of you. You can take those up. And the Pines room, once you get up, it's sort of in the northeast corner of the upstairs. If you had breakfast this morning, it's in the room right above where you had breakfast. is where it is. So not terribly hard to find, but that's where it is. If you're looking at the agenda, everything that happens in Lewis and Clark is in blue and track A, and everything that happens in Pines is in red and track B. So that's where we are with that. Let's see if we had anything else. Oh, lunch is next door. It's where we'll actually eat is next door at 11:30. There's a pasta bar, and you should be able to mix and match and do things, and we should be fine based on meal requests. But if you do have a problem, please let me know and we'll try to work something out. There's also a break table so you had registration table. Right next to it is a break table. And at the break table, you will find there's stuff going on right now. So there's like fruit and some things that you can take to your breakout session. And then there'll be an afternoon snack there too. So please be sure to come at 2:20 and get your afternoon snack that's there. And let me look through all my announcements. I think that is it. So I only have one more announcement. And my final announcement is that in May, when my contract expires, I have chosen not to seek a new engagement with Missouri Evergreen. And I want to make something really, really clear though, and as I told the executive board, that this decision really has everything to do with my personal goals and my objectives and things I'm trying to accomplish in my life, and has nothing, and I will triple underline the word nothing, to do with Missouri Evergreen Consortium. It's been my great honor to work with Missouri Evergreen, and if I had different things going on in my life right now, I would continue to work with Missouri Evergreen. But it's just not in the cards for right now. It's just not working for me right now. And again, it's like they used to say back in, like I used to say back in high school, it's not you, it's me. This is completely me. And so I wanted to underscore that and let you know that it's been my great pleasure. And I continue, even though my contract expires in May, I've told the executive board that I will definitely hang around, until the end of June or whenever we need to, so that we can get a new executive director onboarded and a smooth transition. So, and not going anywhere. Please understand that, even though I'm stepping away from this point in my life, I'm still around in the library community. I'm happy to take your email messages and calls and texts, and even if you just need somebody to complain to, I'm happy to be that person and listen. So, so enough about that. Let's get ready to have a great rest of the session and the breakout sessions. And with that, have a great rest of your day.
And then I